Testing. Hey, good morning, everybody. We're going to get started. Welcome to our Real Men's Breakfast for the month of March. It's exciting to see you guys here, and it's awesome that we have a little bit better weather. It's amazing, eh? Calgary, start the week, minus 20, minus 25, and here we are now. It's going to be plus something here today. So it's awesome to join us for our Real Men's Breakfast, of course. If it's your first time, definitely it makes sense to kind of explain what this is all about. When we decided to call it Real Men, it was kind of a play because, you know, what's a real man? And we thought of taking a sexy picture of some Marlboro man with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, because that is precisely the opposite of a real man, in my opinion. Not that there's anything wrong with the Marlboro man or smoking, but I think that a lot of the times today men are really confused about, you know, what it looks like to be a man. And as a dad with 2 boys and 2 girls, you know, it's awesome to see all the female empowerment that's happening. But, you know, if you decided that you wanted to throw a male empowerment session, you'd probably have protesters at your door. Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, here we are. And so, you know, I kind of thought, well, you know, we need to strengthen men. And yet we definitely don't want to reinforce any of those old narratives that I think we all know can be harmful. And so for us, you can see on the screen, the R stands for respect. You got to respect yourself. And of course, that would lead to respect for others. You know, it's pretty hard to respect other people if you don't respect yourself. As a matter of fact, it's nearly psychologically not possible. And so finding that capacity to respect yourself. The second thing is empathy. And you know what? Men will often show empathy differently than women, but empathy is a powerful thing that men can actually do. Empathy is a superpower, and it's the ability to really understand what's going on with others so that you can then support them in a more holistic way. The A stands for authenticity. We're not into masks or plasticity, you know, being fake. We really think it's important that people be authentic. And then the L, of course, if you do those first 3 things, then L is leadership. And what is leadership? Well, hey, it's actually leadership. It's taking the lead, but being a servant leader. So, you know, we actually have a group of guys who form the sort of core, and there they are. Some of them are in the room, and some of them are in other countries. And so it's awesome to see guys really supporting this and getting behind this. And we normally have a co-host, Akeem Haynes, but he's actually in the U.S. right now, and it's very difficult to tune him in because of the bandwidth issues within our place. But my name's Abe Brown, and so, you know, before, though, we kind of get into our speakers, and feel free to keep eating and just grabbing coffee if you need it, we actually have a sponsor for our event today, and he's an awesome guy. He's actually right here in the room, and he's going to come on up and just share a couple of concepts about what he's doing. So can you give a big hand, everyone, to Elias, if you could? There you go, my friend.
Thanks, Abe. How's everybody doing today? Good? Awesome. Hopefully you can be better after this slide right here. So if you want to take 2 seconds, it'll be a good idea to scan this QR code, and I'll tell you why in a bit. We're going to give away some prizes here. But my name's Elias, and we run a data analytics company for restaurants based in Calgary here. So we have 2,000 patrons across the city that we send out, and very simply, if you want to go do reviews at restaurants, we will literally give you money to those restaurants to go do reviews. And it's a 2-minute review, super simple, it's done after. You actually get the funds before you even go in, which is amazing. So the second thing we have is we have a Top Dish card. So think of a Starbucks card, but it's to almost 40 restaurants in the city. So we're Calgary's largest restaurant gift card. And when you load that card, you can use it at places like Porch, Gringo Street, Olea, Sensei Bar, and you get 5% instant credit right there. So we're going to play a little game. If you want to scan the QR code and download the app, we're going to give 2 $50 gift cards. So we're going to give $100 in gift cards for some super quick fun over here. So first thing I want to know is once you download the app, you can just sign in with Apple or Google. And first person to tell me through the app one of the top dishes from Ladybug Cafe, you'll get $50. It's a race. I know exactly, yeah. It's all about the data now, so. Boom, there you go. Done. Yeah, exactly. It's a fast guy. Awesome. And so the next one, real quick, if you can go on the scan tab and create a top dish card, first person to show me their top dish card will get $50 right here. So you just go scan, tab, add a card, enable camera, and give me a new card. And then you click confirm. Perfect, done. There you go. Amazing, sounds good. So what's really cool is we have food from Bros to Go over here. So we are launching with them here April 1st with Broken Yolk and Bros to Go. So if anybody would like to sign up after, come find me. It takes 2 minutes. It's free. You can become a patron to literally go do 2-minute reviews at restaurants. And I'll walk you through the whole process. It's super straightforward. And you'll get $10 to Broken Yolk or Bros to Go, whichever one you'd like. So thanks, Abe.
So, you know, you're an entrepreneur. Can you just tell us a little bit about Top Dish? And I know this is on the spot, but
oh yeah,
what is it all about?
So I grew up in the restaurant industry, and I realized growing up in a pizza shop, we had some like incredible, we made some incredible pizzas, but our sides weren't that great. And you know, growing up in the restaurant industry, you see the different struggles of restaurants too. And I said, well, you know, I told my dad, I said, okay, we need to change the sides. And he said, nope, they're selling. That's the way we've always done it, kind of thing. And I said, okay, well, where's the data that I could show them? It's not just me, it's a bunch of other people as well. And so the answer is there's very little data out there, right? So what we wanted to do is collect that whole feedback loop of very detailed data to help support restaurant owners. And that's what we've been able to do. We've seen specific menu items jump all the way like in a 20% increase in overall rating. And it's so cool to see that turnaround with restaurants just from authentic, honest feedback. Yeah, so it's super powerful. So, but we want to reward people for that feedback as well. So,
yeah, right on. Hey, give Elias a hand, everybody. Thanks so much. And give you the mic back if you don't mind. Thanks, man. So that was awesome. And, you know, one of the big themes of the Real Men's Breakfast is always doing our best to support local entrepreneurs. And, you know, being in the restaurant industry is tough, right? Actually, the folks that sponsor this, Broken Yolk, with Bros to Go, of course, we pay for it, but they give us a really, really good deal. You know, he was telling me, you know, they moved into a new location. They're really struggling down there, close to 17th Avenue. And they're not getting the kind of traction that they thought they would get. And this is from a kind of a restaurant chain that's already had a great deal of success in the Calgary area, you know. So it's good what you're doing. I think it's great. And how many of you'd agree with me that the more we can support local entrepreneurs, the better, right? And, you know, kind of on that note, as the Real Men's Breakfast has evolved, one of the things that we've noticed is that there's been an increasing focus in the men who have been coming on their own mental health. And I'm not sure if you know this, and if you don't, it's okay, because the media sure doesn't tell us. But it's actually true that men have substance abuse issues at the rate of about 3 times that of women. And so 3 times more men have issues with addiction around substances than the average woman. And that's in Canada. And then men commit suicide at the rate of 4 times that of women. And I'll tell you, if it was the other way around, they would be screaming from the rooftops but, because it's men, nobody cares. And the funny thing is, men, when they struggle, they don't necessarily talk about it, right? I think that's one big difference. I mean, when women struggle, everybody hears about it, whether you want to hear about it or not. You can't get out of the way. When she wants to talk, she wants to talk, right? Whereas when the guy struggles, a lot of the time, it's real tragic, right? We tend to struggle within. We keep quiet, we dig deeper, and sometimes that works, but sometimes, we go out back behind the shed and we end our own life and we leave a note because we don't see any way forward. And so what's been cool about this breakfast, and I think this is our 8th or 9th breakfast, is just seeing the impact on men's mental health. And sometimes people say, well, how do you measure your outcomes? How do you measure your progress? And I'm like, I don't know, but I know that people are feeling better. They're feeling safer. They have an opportunity to communicate and to connect and to not feel alone. So today, our theme is finding your strength. Funny thing about strength is you can have it, and then you can lose it. And there's different types of strength, obviously physical, but also mental health. There's spiritual strength. There's even emotional strength. And so we've got 2 great speakers. Our first speaker today is a young Jedi Master by the name of Greg Ryder. And I'm actually going to read his bio because I think it's pretty cool. Greg honed his stage presence on Nashville's iconic stages and shared his music on WSM Grand Ole Opry Radio, leaving an enduring impact on his audience. And in 2019, Greg embarked on a transformative 4-month tour across Canada and performed at over 90 schools and reached 30,000 students with his story of hope and resiliency. His heartfelt compositions like 16 Sticks, dedicated to the Humboldt Broncos, and how many remember that tragedy in Saskatchewan, solidified his reputation as a songwriter conveying messages of hope. Somebody once said to me, do you listen to country music? And I'm like, well, I'm already depressed enough. Like, you know what I mean? I don't need more depression, thanks, but no thanks. But I love the fact that you're coming at it with a different lens. Greg's a committed mental health advocate and even co-founded a charity called Not Today, which focuses on helping the stigma around men's mental health, right? Stigma is never helpful. He's the host of the Greg Ryder Show, in which he addresses critical societal topics. And embracing in his life, late in life, ADHD diagnosis, Greg symbolizes resilience and growth, while his one-man show captivates audiences with storytelling, music, and improv. So, hey, can you all give a big hand to Greg Ryder? He's going to come on up and speak to our hearts.
All right. November 27th, 2018, I was standing up on stage in downtown Nashville. My bands and I were just about to perform at a popular downtown bar called the FGL House. And I remember that night very well. The crowd was packed. It was a warm summer evening. The drinks were flowing, and the girls were pretty. I remember standing there up on stage and kind of just taking in the night. And I could hear the crowd kind of growing in anticipation as the show was about to begin. And I could hear the loud bar music playing over the speakers, and I could hear my drummer behind me sound checking his bass drum. Boom, boom, boom. I could still taste the remnants of whiskey on my lips because before every single show, we like to take a shot. And as I was standing up on stage tuning my guitar, getting ready to start the show, I saw this girl starting to walk up to the stage. And she was dressed in these loud colors, and she was holding up a vodka soda drink in a Dixie cup. And she walks up to the stage, and she looks up at me, and I look down at her, and she yells, "Are you going to play Wagon Wheel?" Yes, I promise you we're probably going to play that song tonight. That was a song that everyone wanted to hear in Nashville. That was the song that was a popular song at the time. We ended up playing that song 5 times by the end of that night. Because in Nashville, you don't always play the songs that you wanted to hear. You always play the songs that the crowd wanted to hear because we worked for tips. So when they requested a song, you played that song, and that's how we made our money down on Broadway. And as I was standing up there, this was a normal Friday night in Nashville. The bar was packed. It was just a fun night. This is what I did for a living. And as I stood up there, I looked out on the crowd, and I remember just thinking to myself, I'm tired. I'm tired of this. It was this emptiness kind of came over me, and I've never felt this before. And I was just tired of the drinking. I was tired of the late nights. I was tired of the constant anxiety of wondering how to make it in the music industry. And I was tired of singing the same old country songs every single night to drunk people. I knew I wanted more from my life. I didn't know it at the time, but I was so burnt out and so exhausted from playing 6 nights a week that I went back home to Canada in 2018, and I never went back. I thought I was making one of the worst decisions of my life because I worked so hard to create a good name for myself in Nashville, and I just walked away without any warning. What would I do next with my life? In one calendar year, we managed to do 210 band shows around the U.S., and that's not to mention all the acoustic gigs that I played in between that. So it brought it close to about 300 shows in a year. I went back home at age 28. I moved back in with my parents in my hometown, and I felt like the biggest failure ever. What was I going to do with my life? I said to myself, I'm going to take this time to do a dream of mine that I've always wanted to do, that I was always too afraid to do. And I wanted to tour across Canada. I wanted to speak at high schools, and I wanted to tell all these students what no one told me in high school. That was, you didn't have to have everything figured out in high school. And it's okay if you try many different interests and different passions, because you never know which one might grab a hold of you. So in September of 2019, I left on a 4-month tour across Canada, and I spoke at over 90 schools and reached over 30,000 students with my message on hope and resiliency. And that tour was one of the toughest things I've ever done, because we traveled for 4 months straight, all the way from Hamilton, Ontario, out to Victoria, BC. We traveled on this old limo bus, and we would sleep at billets houses. So they would set up all these places for us to stay along this trip. And if we couldn't find a home to sleep in, we had these little cots in the back of the bus, and we'd set them up in the basement of churches. I didn't know this was a Christian organization until about a week until I left. I wasn't Christian at this time. And if I learned that it was Christian, I might have been more hesitant about getting on the road, because I never surrounded myself with Christians, and to be honest, I didn't know much about it. I didn't know much about the Christian world, and I honestly thought they were all too nice. And I was like, I don't get it. But I met so many Christian families on this trip that I was like, man, maybe I have this all wrong. There's a certain love here that I never knew before. In this trip, I would do my gigs, and I would speak, and it was almost just like I was doing this tour for the wrong reasons, because I was coming off at a Nashville trip where, I was playing all around the U.S., and I thought that this school tour was going to be my chance to get my music into the hearts of these students, and this was going to start this massive new music tour for me. And I was going to go and start touring all around the world with my message. But I quickly learned that's why I wasn't on the road, because I started meeting students that had been through things that I could never imagine going through, like physical and sexual abuse, from drugs to bullying. And I had this one guy come up to me after one of my shows. He brought me aside and he said, "Hey man, I want you to know that last night I wanted to end my life. But I heard there was a motivational speaker and a singer coming to my school the next day, and I wanted to hear what you had to say. I've listened to your story, and I heard your song, Look Who Turned His Life Around, and I want to turn my own life around, and I want to get help." I quickly realized I was not on this tour to get my music or my fan base bigger. I was on this trip and this tour to help the students that were struggling just like I was. This tour, though, it brought out things in my own self that I had to work on. Because there were some times when the stress of the tour would get to me, lack of sleep, all the travel, that sometimes I had to escape and go to a bar to have a couple drinks. There was one day when we were supposed to take the day off and we were supposed to rest for the next leg of the tour. I went and got drunk all day in Lethbridge, Alberta. I sat at a bar all day and drank. Another night, I was at a billet's house. I found a beer fridge in the bottom of their basement, and I sat there and drank their beers and put the empty ones behind the full ones. I didn't think there was a problem back then. Quickly learned now, looking back in my life, there was a problem there. When I got off the road, that's when the pandemic began. And obviously that cut off a lot of ties for entertainment and creative, and I couldn't do the one thing that I wanted to dedicate my life to, which was music and speaking. And I hit rock bottom again. I turned back to drinking, I turned back to drugs, and I was like, man, like, I just keep getting beat down. Like, when is life going to become easier? And I actually had no plan B. So I actually got a job doing entry-level landscaping. And what I would do is I'd work 40 hours a week mowing people's grasses and doing landscaping. And I was just like, man, my life could not be any worse right now. I sat there in the driveway one morning, one night actually after work, and I remember sitting on my phone, and this is when TikTok was just starting to get big, and I said, what if I posted up a song that's been hidden on my phone for 2 years? It was a song I wrote for the Humboldt Broncos. And I wrote this song down in Nashville in 2018, and I wrote this song a week after the crash happened. I put it up on Facebook because I wanted to share it with my friends and family. I ended up getting very negative criticism from that. And people actually said to me, hey man, this is way too soon. Give some time to the family and friends. They need more time to grieve. And one person actually said to me, I think you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And I said, whoa. I actually kind of believed him. I was like, am I doing this for the wrong reasons, or did I actually write this song? I took it down and I hid it on my phone. But while I was on that tour driving through Saskatchewan, I was actually talking to one of the survivors of the Humboldt Broncos crash. And we were talking about mental health. And I said, hey man, I wrote you and your teammates a song. If I send this song to you and you like it and you think this could help people and you give me your blessing, I'd love to share this song with the world. He sent me a message a couple days later and he said, dude, I heard your song. I just cried. I sent it to my family and friends. They all cried. You got a powerful song here, man. You got to get this song out to the world. So I put it up on TikTok. The next morning, I woke up to over 200,000 views on that song. Thousands of comments and messages pouring in about how, thank you for writing this song. Please get this out. So I jumped in a studio and I recorded this song and I put it out to the world. And the song started gaining traction all across the country. It came at a time when I needed that hope. I needed that wind to say, Greg, keep going. This is what you were meant to do. You were meant to write music that it inspires people. And you don't have to be a normal country artist that's writing about drinking and girls and normal country music. Like, you can use your music for a much bigger purpose. And I was just like, let's go. I can do this. And I got one message from a bar owner in St. Albert, Edmonton. And he said to me, hey, I heard your song. I want to fly you out west. I want you to sing this song at a fundraiser. I didn't know, but there was four of the boys that passed away on the Humboldt Broncos were actually from St. Albert. So they were doing a fundraiser there. So I was looking for any way to escape my hometown at that time, and I was like, get me out. And so I went out there for a week, and I got to perform my song for a whole bunch of different venues and events. I got to meet some of the friends and family that were affected by the crash. I got to go to Humboldt, sit at center ice, and sing my song at the home opener. I got to go to Humboldt and see the crash site. I got to walk through the dressing room. Then I got to do an interview on Sportsnet in between the first intermission of an Edmonton Oilers game with Gene Principe. That week was life-changing for me. I went back home to Ontario, and the second I jumped off that plane in Toronto, I knew that this is not where I wanted to call home anymore. I want to go out west because I fell in love with the people out here. I fell in love with the way of life. I was coming in the middle of a pandemic, and I believe Ontario, they had their hands behind their backs, and they were waiting for this thing to pass. I felt in Alberta, people actually saw an ending. They saw there was hope at the end of the tunnel, and they were ready to speak their mind and work towards getting better. And I was like, this is my people. This is where I need to be. I've now been living here in Alberta for close to 3 years now. I started up in St. Albert for 3 months, came back down to Calgary for about a year, and I moved out to Strathmore, Alberta. I randomly stumbled upon this little town because I got hired to be an event manager at a ranch. And it was a wedding ranch, and I went out there, worked for a couple months, ended up not working out, but I was like, I love this little town. And I started to meet people from the community, started going to church there, and I started falling in love with this small town feel. And today, you know, when I was in Calgary, living with a roommate, he was another musician, and we would sit there and we'd write songs every single night, and we would sit there and talk about life. And he told me that he actually got diagnosed with ADHD early on in life. And I said, yeah, I was supposed to get diagnosed in elementary school, but never actually got tested. Because I actually had a meeting with all of the teachers and my parents, and they said, we need to get Greg tested. And my parents back then, mental health was not as accepted as it is today. And my parents felt that I was going to be treated differently if I had ADHD, and I got put on medication back then. So they decided to not get me tested. And he goes, oh, dude, you're a walking case for ADHD. And I was like, me? He's like, 100%. I was like, okay. So I started doing research, and I found a clinic here in Calgary that did a 6-week test. And I got to go through a 6-week period. Every single week, we talk about my life and questions. We do eyesight tests and memory tests. And at the end of the 6 weeks, she sat there with this white envelope, and she said, Greg, you have ADHD. My tears welled up in my eyes. I was like, I had been wanting to find an answer to my head for so long. I struggled with anxiety. I struggled with depression. I struggled with self-doubt. I struggled with guilt. I struggled with substance abuse. I struggled with never feeling like I was ever going to make something of my life. I constantly held myself back, and I was always in my own way. I now got the answer to say, you have ADHD. Whew! My life's about to start new. I drove home, called my mom. The first thing out of my mouth was, Mom, I was right. What do you mean you were right? I have ADHD. Wow. Yeah. I cried the whole way home, and this was one of the best days of my life. I felt like my life was starting all again, and now I had the answers I knew to get better. To make things a little humor to the story, though, on the way home, I was still addicted to nicotine, and I had to jump off the road to get my vape refilled. So I threw a U-turn at an intersection, got T-boned by a Calgary bus. Rode off my truck. So here I was, starting again, with this brand new life in front of me, and I said to myself, how am I going to be a better man? How am I going to get better? How am I going to find my strength to keep going? I decided I was going to quit drinking, and I decided that I was going to make it a mission that I would not have my next drink until I hit 1 million streams on a Spotify song. So I bought this expensive bottle of champagne. I got a custom label. I set it up. 1 month went by, 2 months, 3 months, still didn't hit it. Crap. Today, I still haven't hit 1 million streams on Spotify, and I am 2.5 years sober. To add a little humor to this, that champagne bottle exploded in my car when I was moving properties. So I think that's God's way of saying, buddy, you're not going back. I was diagnosed with ADHD in 2021, and I said to her, how can I cope with this without medication? Because I was misdiagnosed at age 24 with a severe anxiety disorder. They gave me a whole bunch of bottles of antidepressants, and they said, come back in 2 weeks. That week, I laid in bed, my personality cut in half with suicidal thoughts. I was like, hell no. Get these out of my way. How am I going to do this without medication? She said, you're going to have to change your whole life. Quit drinking. Look at your nicotine, sleep quality, exercise. I said, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help myself feel better. So yeah, I quit drinking. I quit nicotine. I did everything I could. And I decided to finally welcome God into my life in 2023. And I got baptized on January 8th. And I realized that I was doing life alone my entire life. It was always me against the world. I never wanted to ask for help. Just what us men do, put our head down, get to work. No one can help me. If I just keep going, it's finally going to get better. But I just want to encourage you guys out there, if you are struggling, you feel like your wheels are turning, you feel like you can't get any traction, you feel like, man, when is this going to get better? I encourage you guys to seek help. If that comes in the form of a friend, a coach, a therapist, a psychologist, maybe you might find the answers that I've been longing for my entire life. Maybe it's just you need someone to listen to you. But asking for help is your first step. And I truly believe that everyone in here has the ability to turn their life around and become the best version of themselves. Make today your day one. Thank you, guys. What's that? Sing the song? I don't have the guitar. I could just sing a quick verse. But there will always be 16 sticks laying at sunrise and picking sides, frozen in time with the banners high under those rafter lights. There will always be 16 dreams that get carried on by yellow and green. Through every hollow goal and every hometown dream. 'Cause nothing will take away those times. And those 16 sticks will live forever on ice.
Right on. Hey, wasn't that fantastic? Give Greg a big hand, everybody. That was really good. Yeah, you said a lot of things there that really resonated for me. What resonated for any of you guys? Just shout it out. What spoke to you? Never too late to restart. Absolutely. Absolutely. Knowledge is power. Absolutely. Yeah. What else? Don't be shy, guys. Ask for help. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. Enough is enough. Right on. You got to hit that rock bottom sometimes. What else? It's really important to just reflect on things, you know. We're just so quick to move on to the next thing, but sometimes you just got to pause a little bit. John? You know, the reality is you are not your diagnosis, and especially not if the diagnosis is wrong, you know. But even if it's right, it's just an element that I mean, hey, you've got red hair, you know. Okay, is that who you are? No, it's just a part of who you are. And it's amazing the power that we give to these diagnoses to shape our own self-identity. It's not meant for that. It's meant to give you information so that you have a better understanding of the uniqueness of your own journey. but it's definitely not meant to constrain or create a box around you, which is exactly the way it's being shared today. What else resonated for you? Yeah, David. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think, Greg, I really appreciated listening to you. I mean, I've been following you on Instagram since you came to our breakfast there a few months ago, and what really spoke to me is you're a man who had a message for a moment, but there was a whole process that went into that. When this terrible tragedy happened imagine these young men, the peak of their physical health, their whole future in front of them, and just like that, it's all over. And, God, the universe, however you see it, needed somebody at that moment to come forward with a message of hope. And your whole journey led you to that moment. But you had to have the responsiveness to actually embrace it. And I often think to myself, our life is filled with moments. Who knows what moment I might walk into today that if I keep myself on the right path, and that doesn't mean perfection, but as long as I'm kind of working hard and growing and not making excuses and not taking on a victim mindset, but just actually trying to have my personal integrity intact each day, I might, at the moment of someone else's need, be there for them. And I tell you, having been in that place thousands of times, there is literally nothing more powerful than that. And just tell them I'll call them back a little bit later, and we'll get to them a little later. But so I commend you for that, and I think you're going to have many more moments like that in your life. And doesn't it feel good to know you were there? Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the circumstances are horrible, but imagine the circumstances without that hope that you're able to bring.
For sure, and I think, yeah, it was just a time.
So, it's, again, another sort of leadership lesson for us in that. Like society, we don't know how to grieve. And grieving is not something that we're taught because we have this idea, we're going to live forever. And everything's always going to get better and everything's going to be perfect. And so when we lose a pet or we lose our job or we get demoted or our marriage falls apart or we lose, tragically, a son, a daughter, somebody that we love, we actually don't have the toolkit mentally and emotionally to handle it. You perfectly exemplified that because the way you grieve is not by not talking about it. That's the worst thing you can do. It's by creating a picture, a story, 16 sticks. It's by honoring them. It's by celebrating their legacy through no fault of their own. It's by actually remembering them in the way that you would want to be remembered. And of course, connecting with the family. But you know what? No matter when you step out to fulfill your destiny, so, haters are going to hate, aren't they, right? I mean, judges are going to judge. I mean, that's what they do. There's always going to be somebody who is, in their own mind, the smartest guy in the room, and probably they are, because likely it's a room with one person in it, and they're, judging, and they're very courageous sitting in their underwear, as they post on social media. But you're resilient. We don't get to help people without sometimes facing down some of the hardship. And so good for you, man. We got your back. And you know what, men? Just remember that lesson, because there's a bunch of lessons, I think, in Greg's story today. But one of them is you're going to face moments, too, where people need you to rise to the surface. And I think that's the nature of a man. We've always been, right, through history, the ones who go to war, the ones who work in the mines, the ones who will lay our lives down to defend our family. And I think we need to continue doing that, right? And I don't necessarily mean physically, but definitely mentally, emotionally, financially, like making sure that they don't have to make the tough choices, because we've been there for them. And there's 100,000 ways you can do that. So our next speaker is awesome. And actually, he's a good friend of mine. We spent 2 years together in a room. There's more people in the room, so I don't want you to think those thoughts. But it's Saturday morning. It's too early for you to be thinking those thoughts. You're like, it's never too early for me. But, Peter is awesome. He actually, I'm going to read off of his bio. He has 20 years of experience in digital marketing, communications, and government relations across many different industries. And, of course, as the president of a company called CIPR Communications, he is their visionary, and he's responsible for sales, growth, and innovation. His agency has clinched 5 WMA awards for website development just in the past 2 years, and was recently crowned the 2023 Best International Tourism Marketing and Communications Agency by the Corporate Vision Canadian Business Awards. And so Peter's a frequent speaker, and he has presented on artificial intelligence and how it's going to impact business, as well as marketing and communication. And, he and his wife, they are the beautiful parents of 2 beautiful boys, twin boys. And how old are they now? 8, 7 years old. And they do a lot of mountain trails and do some fitness, do some boxing, do some MMA. And I can tell you, Peter is just a high-quality individual. He cares about people. You're not going to hear any inauthenticity today. He cares deeply about men and mental health. So can you give Peter a big hand, everybody? And welcome. Welcome, brother. Absolutely.
And, perfect. And there's just, yeah, perfect. Ooh. Abe told me this thing's finicky, so we're just gonna press this button over here, I think. All right, well, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm going to start off with a bit of an apology. I had a very late night last night. I got in from Victoria at 3 o'clock in the morning, had some flight issues, so we're doing our best today. We're trying to find our strength internally as we do this. As Abe mentioned, my name is Peter Pilarski, and really, I'm really honored to be here. And so I thought I'd start off with a question, which is, have you ever felt a moment where everything just clicked? Like, have you been there where all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, this is all just clicking for me, right? This is all just starting to make sense. And I've had a lot of those moments in my life, but in between those moments, I've had lots of chaos, lots of moments of chaos, lots of darkness, lots of things happening where it wasn't clicking, right? And so, throughout my life, I started to make some observations. And so I thought, I'm going to tell you a little story about myself and who I am, and then after that, I'll kind of share some of the observations I made about life. But one of the things about me, and I don't know if you're the same, but when I have those moments where everything clicks, I'm like a race car driver, and I'm getting in that car, and I'm going 100,000 miles an hour in that direction of wherever that thing is taking me. That's where I want to go, and I don't stop. And what I'm learning about life as I get older is that that's the opposite of what I should be doing. Those are the times where I should be slowing down and paying attention. What was that thing that clicked? What happened there? What observations can I make? How can I sort of now make this actually stick forever? Because when I have those moments where everything clicks, I sort of go forward and I start running, and then all of a sudden, I forget all about what clicked, and then I forget all about kind of what sort of made all that clicking happen, and then I just sort of go back into my old paths and my old sort of tendencies. And so I had a moment like that actually literally probably a month ago. So similarly, I found out about a month ago that I'm dyslexic. And it was, I can tell you, in terms of moments where everything clicked, holy shit, right? So my son got diagnosed with dyslexia, and that's kind of what led to my discovery. And it really, really, this time changed everything for me. And for the first time in my life, this moment, when I found this out, instead of going 100 miles an hour forward as fast as I can, I took that moment to slow down. And I took that moment to sort of learn and to start to put things together and start to make sense and sort of put the puzzle together. And it was really, really, really impactful. And so, dyslexia is, it's a funny thing because people who have dyslexia actually have a hard time defining words like dyslexia. So we make make assumptions about what words mean. And so, I always thought, dyslexia just means you have some reading problems or, whatever. And now as I'm learning about dyslexia, I'm learning that actually I see the world completely differently from people who are not dyslexic. So people who are not dyslexic kind of see, this is my understanding, is they see the world in sort of numbers and letters. I see that world in pictures and videos. And so my brain works differently. But one half of my brain doesn't really process information properly. It doesn't quite work the same as a lot of other people. What happens is then my other half of my brain works in overdrive all the time. And so, looking back at my life, I have similar struggles in terms of, when I was 15, I started drinking heavily, I started taking the drugs, I started doing all kinds of shit that got me in all kinds of trouble, got in trouble with the law. And what I realize now is I was trying to escape that brain that wouldn't stop. My brain just not stop, constantly go, 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 go. All these dark ideas, all these different things. And watching my son who's dyslexic, I'm starting to understand now that a lot of that comes from insecurities. So when you're dyslexic and all your friends around you, when you're like 7, 8 years old, 9 years old, learning how to read, they're all reading quickly. So I have twins. One son is just an incredible reader, incredibly brilliant, sort of, managing to figure all this reading out, and the other son's struggling. He's really struggling. But the son who's dyslexic and is struggling is a freaking genius. That guy can see big picture. He can put things together unbelievably, whereas the other son who's not dyslexic can kind of like zone in and sort of make little connections sort of happen, and he can understand things. And so what I'm realizing is that, yes, there's some struggles for dyslexic people, but they also have some genius. They also have some incredible powers and abilities that non-dyslexic people don't have. And so, I think similarly, man, it's such an honor for me to know that my kid has dyslexia and now to be able to help him and to be able to help him through those struggles because there's a lot of darkness that comes from being a little bit different. There's a lot of darkness from seeing all your friends excel at school and do amazing at reading, and then, it honestly makes me want to cry when my son tells me, I'm always the last one to finish the assignment, or I don't finish, or I need help with teachers all the time. That's really hard. And that really takes an impact on your mental health when you're 7, 8, and that's how you're experiencing the world, and you're seeing yourself as this, I'm stupid, I'm dumb. When I grew up, I was lazy and dumb. That's what I was. But as it turns out, I was actually just dyslexic. I'm not lazy at all. In fact, dyslexic people work really freaking hard because they have to overcome. They have to figure out ways. They have to figure out strategies. So we're pretty innovative. We're pretty creative. We figure it out. We sort of find workarounds. So I had a girlfriend when I was so I really struggled. I barely finished high school, and I almost failed high school because of English. Couldn't write, couldn't read. It's terrible. And I got this girlfriend who, at the time, was an English honors major, and she showed me this formula on how to write properly, like a structure on how to write. So she showed me about English and writing in a way that nobody's ever showed it to me before. So after learning that, I got through high school, finished it, got into university, graduated with a 4.0 GPA, and my first job out of university was a speechwriter at the Alberta legislature. So, I went from a kid that couldn't read, a kid who barely made it through high school, to a kid that was now writing speeches for politicians, writing legislation for politicians. It was such a transformation, it was unbelievable. But I still at that time didn't realize I was dyslexic. I still didn't understand, that I had these struggles. I just found ways to overcome them and sort of be resilient and sort of get there. But, throughout my entire adulthood, alcohol, drugs, all these different things were a fairly constant struggle and a constant thing that I was dealing with. And I now realize that I was trying to escape from myself, and I was trying to escape from my mind, and I was trying to escape from all these things and these thoughts that I couldn't get away from. But now that I have this knowledge and this power, now I'm embracing it. Now I'm understanding it, how to hone it, how to make it my superpower. Because you know what? There are some serious superpowers. So, I'm learning through this journey that there's some pretty incredible people who are dyslexic who do amazing things. Some of actually, it's interesting. So Abe shared some stats earlier today about sort of men's mental health. And, one of the stats I learned when it comes to dyslexia is that, men suffer from dyslexia like 10 times more than women. It's like for every man who's dyslexic, or for every woman who's dyslexic, there's 10 dyslexic men. So it's definitely something that affects men more than women, quite significantly. And that knowledge is power. And so, I'm learning things like, for example, that 40% of the CEOs of the biggest companies in the world are all dyslexic. I mean, that's freaking empowering, man. Holy shit. So I was just saying, so I run a couple companies, and now that I have this power, now that I know this about myself, it's like, in my company, I get in my own way, like you said. I'm sort of holding myself back because I'm trying to do things that I'm really shitty at. It's just not what I'm good at. So now that I have this power and this knowledge, it's like, well, I'm just going to hire somebody to do that so I can focus all my energy on my genius, right? Find that genius and run with it. So, I still drink alcohol, but it's something I'm thinking about actively right now in terms of, I don't drink it much, but I still do. And, I'm the kind of guy, I don't know about you, but 1 is too much and 12 is never enough. So that's a problem. I gotta figure that out. So I'm very early in this journey. I'm just sort of like figuring it out. But I'm realizing a couple things, and I wanted to share some of the knowledge, really that I'm getting about the world. So number one, knowledge is clarity, right? And this clarity is amazing in terms of you start to get this clarity, you start to get answers, you start to be able to put the pieces together. And it's really, really powerful to have that clarity and what it could do for you. So one of the things I mentioned is, I always turned to the drugs, the alcohol. I had lots of failed relationships. I really struggled with women, failed marriage, this and that, all this other stuff. And I was always escaping. I was always trying to, use this alcohol to get away and just to sort of not have to deal with kind of what was going on in my head. And I'm realizing now that it's all about this journey within. It's all about not doing that. So what my message to you today is that we have these instincts, or we have these kind of ways of doing things where, for example, when, we have these moments where all of a sudden there's clarity and we go really fast. What I'm learning in life now is that really the opposite of what your first instinct is probably the right thing to do, right? So that's kind of where I want to kind of take this conversation here. With what I'm sort of saying are kind of 3 truths that ring really true to me that I hope will help you as well. So truth number 1 is about less. So I'm really, really discovering that less is so much more, right? So, we have a lot of there's just a lot. Like, we live in this world where there's just so much coming at us all the time, and we got to find ways to sort of to have less, right? So I tell this story to my friends sometimes, but I used to, in my backyard, there was this I have this this deck, and then whoever built the deck had built this little almost like doorway thing, and I took it away once. I was like, it's kind of not necessary, and I sort of removed it. And it's just amazing to me now when I look at my backyard and this thing isn't there, sort of like taking my attention, how much bigger and more vast my whole backyard looks. So it's a really, kind of just powerful lesson in the fact that less is so much more. So, if you're struggling in your life, instead of more alcohol, more drugs, more escaping, less is probably the right answer. So find ways to do less in your life, and you can start to find some answers. The other thing is noise. We live in a very, very noisy world, and I'm planning to write a book. It's called Life by Design, and one of the chapters in my book that I'm going to probably spend the most attention on is called Mommy and Daddy Issues. And so, we grow up and we have this complicated relationship with our parents, and we're always trying to please our parents, and I have this theory that every single one of us either has a mommy issue or a daddy issue. And that's a lot of noise, right? And so I realized in my life that many of the decisions I was making, many of the things I was doing because I was trying to get I was trying to please my dad. I was trying to make my dad happy, and I wasn't doing it for me, right? And so that's all noise. Our friends tell us. We get, social media, we get people criticizing the decisions we make. That's all noise. And so the more we can cut that noise away, the more we can start to find truths about ourselves, and the more we can start to find clarity, and the more we can find answers. Because that noise is just a distraction. And then finally, I think, to me, the most important one is really that discipline. So discipline is freedom. So as a dyslexic, it's very interesting. My 7-year-old son had a conversation with me the other day about sort of rules and freedom. And so I'm a self-proclaimed freedom fighter. I've been fighting for freedom my whole life. It's like this thing, this driving force in my life that I can't get away from, this desire for freedom. And I think that's because I'm trying to free myself of this thing that's going on in my head, this story I keep telling myself. I don't really know. But my 7-year-old's saying the same kinds of things as I think my entire life, and it's really, really powerful to me that this is, I don't know if this is my dyslexia, I don't know if this is just sort of, I don't know, my DNA or my nature, I'm not really sure. But what I'm realizing, that discipline is freedom. So when we're disciplined and we have routines, that's when we can start to find true freedom. So I used to be this freedom fighter, and I've sort of a long history of fighting for freedom in sort of politics and in legislation and all kinds of things. And I realized that here I am out there fighting for freedom out here around legislation and different things, but I wasn't free inside. And so I needed to find some discipline in order to find that freedom. And so it's, again, what I'm trying to sort of say is that, life is kind of about opposites. I've been fighting for freedom my whole life, and I'm now realizing that discipline, rules, structure, all of these things are what actually leads to freedom. So to me, it's extremely profound to understand that. And then the other thing I'll just say is that your energy is your teacher. So when we do things in life, Abe mentioned I like to go box. I like boxing, and I like MMA. I like to fight. And I don't like going to the gym. I hate pumping iron at a gym. That's just not who I am. It's not and I only know that because I pay attention to my energy now. What is my energy telling me? When I'm in that fighting, when I'm in that boxing ring, when I'm standing toe-to-toe with this guy, I feel really good inside. I'm just like, let's do this, let's go. When I'm at a gym, I'm like, I hate this, I don't want to be here, blah, 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 this sucks. It's like, listen to that. That energy is your guide. That energy is literally what you need to listen to. And so, when you start to cut out the noise, when you start to do those things, you can start to hear what your energy is telling you. And so the answers are actually all within you. And so, cut out the noise, cut out what people are telling you, cut out all that outside stuff, because it's all in here. And so I kind of just put it all together and just sort of said less noise plus more discipline it gives you the space that you need to find your strength, right? So you need space. And we live in this weird world where we get up, and I don't know about you, but there's many times where I get up and I check my social media and I check my phone before I do anything else in the morning. And so that's something I've had to change from a discipline perspective, and I've had to make some rules saying, I can't do that, because that's immediately starting to create sort of damaging sort of thoughts and ideas in my head, and I can't start my day that way. So we've had to create some discipline. I've had to create some space in order for me to be able to find my strength. And so I encourage all of you guys to start your inner journey. Hopefully some of these tips I gave you will help. It's really just you versus you. You're not competing against anybody else. I put this picture here because this is probably the steepest thing I've ever climbed. I love to climb big, high mountains, and I was scared shitless over here. My friend didn't make it up with me. I was literally vibrating. So when I talk about feeling your energy, I'm afraid of heights, but I like to climb big mountains. I was vibrating, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know. And I just decided, you know what? This is me versus me. I'm gonna do this. And I did it, and it was amazing. And there I am at the top of the mountain, and it was just the most incredible feeling to actually make it up there. And so, my final message to you is that, you know, your life begins at the end of your comfort zones. So, you know, when I was drinking, when I was avoiding, when I was doing all those things, it was just me sort of doing what was comfortable. But it's when I stopped doing what was comfortable when I started to find my strength. Thank you.
It's fantastic. Thanks, Peter. Yeah, actually, I was going to say, Greg, if you want to come on up too. And guys, if you have questions for these guys or want to share some reflections, feel free. Yeah, go ahead. I don't know, Brad, if you want to, if that'll help. Jim, can you turn on number 7? Lucky number 7.
Yeah, thank
Thanks,
you.
Jim.
So my background, I'm a neuroscientist and an AI engineer, and I think the overarching thing between both of your conversation is something that we call construct, where whether that's internal, external, we have a certain amount of construct. We set expectations, we set goals, we set 5-year goals, plans, and if we don't meet those goals and those plans, we feel failure. And that is often a problem, because I think that by doing those kind of constructs that we set these goals, even though they help and push us forward, by failing those, we often hold ourselves back. And that comes also from an external perspective. We have social construct as well. We have this idea of what a man should be, what a woman should be. Social construct depends on the location where we live. It is based on where the social construct of a man in, for example, Calgary is very different from the social construct of a man in Montreal. And if you go outside of the country, the social construct of a man, for example, in Nigeria or in an Asian country is very different from the social construct of a man. So there is this idea of we need to fit in this entire world of constructs that often, I think, holds us back. And that's also why I dislike the term often of disability. Because we have this very famous quote from, I believe it was Albert Einstein, who said, everybody is a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it is stupid. And that's the thing we don't need to, and I like that term what you said, like you need to focus on what you're good at. And all the rest doesn't really matter. There are other people who can do other stuff that they're good at. So that was just the thing I wanted to mention.
By the way, Albert Einstein, dyslexic. Just saying.
Fantastic. Thank you. What was your name again? Stein? Nice to meet you. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead. Mark, I think it is. It's Mark, yeah.
Thank you. First off, great job, guys. Love both those stories and messages. I guess first off with Greg's story, just to touch on what Abe said and also what David said, what stood out to me was not only the responsiveness and the awareness of the situation, but ultimately the courage to use your voice and to speak that into existence. And by sharing your values and your message, I feel like it completes a missing link for a lot of other people. So really that's just, you know, for accomplishing your destiny and your ultimate purpose. I think that's just integral message for anybody is, you know, you're gonna have to be brave and say what you need to say at certain moments. And then Peter, I like what you said about slowing down when things click, because I think that really just illuminates the cause and effect and kind of like what led to the whole clicking in the first place. And like you said, when you overlook that and you just see what it is and keep going forward, you don't get to put together those pieces of knowledge that can help you recreate those situations in other ways. So I'm not sure if this assisted anyone. I just kind of wanted to paraphrase in my own words and correct me if I'm wrong or just build on that. But yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Any other questions, guys, or comments? I think at the back here. Okay, we'll go here and then back to John.
Hey guys, love that. So good. Both of those just so inspiring. Just incredible how you've both just sort of come through such a variety of things to come out on the other side with such a positive message and such cool stories. I was just wondering, it'd be really cool to hear from each of you what sort of scares you each that's coming up next. So, you've both gone through so much. You've grown through so much of it. So what do you guys see in each of your lives? I'd love to hear, just, it doesn't have to be too specific or too shocking, but like, what do you kind of see in the next 5 years that might be the next mountain to climb or what have you? I'd be interested to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so I think for me, it's like, now that I know about this, like, I reached out into my kid's school and said I want to start the Neurodivergent Parent Network because I've actually, since learning that I'm dyslexic, I could tell I know the dyslexics out there in the world. So I literally have helped like 6 friends in the last like month find out that they're dyslexic. So for me, the ability to be able to help people sort of figure those things out, even if it's ADHD, dyslexia. I mean, there's all different kinds of neurodivergent sort of things out there that people deal with. What's that? Autism, right? But what I'm realizing is, yes, these are challenges, but people that have these challenges also have incredible superpowers, and so they just need to be able to find those superpowers. So for me, that's going to be my passion and my mission going forward. It's not really something that scares me per se, but it's something actually that excites me.
Yeah, I think one thing that scares me is the fact that, before, when I was living my life, like I was always, solo, single, and I'm actually dating a woman right now, and she actually has 2 kids. And they actually lost their dad a couple years back, and he actually died by suicide. And she came into my life, God put her into my life, and I strongly believe that it scares me because I never thought I was ever going to be ready to be a role model to kids. And not having kids of my own, I never really got to grow up with them. And now they're 12 and 14 and very impressionable. So like any advice from any dads out there and stuff like that, and like it's scary because I think the easiest thing for me to do would be to run. It'd go back to my old life and to go back to just playing music and touring and doing that kind of life. But I feel like God gave me the opportunity to be a man and to put my feet down on the ground and plant them and see how I can help these kids mold their future. So that scares me.
I can actually just add one more thing.
It's awesome.
Actually, I am thinking about something that scares me because I'm pretty deep into this AI space, and we're entering a world where it's going to be impossible to tell the difference between real and not real. And as a parent, that's what sort of triggered it. That's sort of a pretty scary world we're going into, that our kids are going to be growing up into. And I think our kids are going to be really smart and really resilient, but as parents and as leaders and we really got to be vigilant about educating and sort of having them have sort of a critical mind, because we're entering into a very, very different world here pretty quickly.
Thanks, you guys. Great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually interesting, talking about kids and AI. Like I have 4 kids, and my oldest is 24. So I have a 24 and a 22-year-old, and then I have a 9-year-old, and we have a 3-month-old. And just actually noticing that these kids are all growing up in completely different worlds, even between the 3-month-old and the 9-year-old, right? The unbelievable difference in what our 3-month-old would be exposed to compared to the 24-year-old at different ages. And you just think, wow, like as a parent, it's kind of cool, like navigating that, but it's also a very humbling thing because I myself have had to grapple with the impact of that in my own life. And so how do I equip the ones that I love the most to do that? So hey, if you have some fears as a dad or as a parent, it's not abnormal. It's actually something that a lot would struggle with too. And I love the focus on neurodivergent parents, because I think often parents can feel like they're failing because their kid is struggling, right? So your one son who might not finish the assignments, you could be thinking, well, what have I done wrong as a parent? And of course, it's not anything to do with that. It's just that there's a different process for him. And so giving those parents support, that's awesome. So I think we are going to go to John first at the back, and then we'll come back up to Mr. Eddie, my friend. So, yeah.
I don't know, just a few comments, I guess. Like you were talking about how genius, like different types of genius, right? Like it's like and again, I know that a lot of stuff online isn't 100% true, but like some of the studies that guys talk about, they're saying like kids at like 3 to 4 years old, there's like 60% or 70% are genius, and as they get into the education system, it really like that goes like tanks down to like 1% by the time they get to grade 12, right? So like I feel like our education system is garbage. Like it's really like it's making a lot of genius kids feel like they're just not there, right? And it's like, what are we measuring? How to memorize crap? You know, it's like and that's, you know, like some people like, you know, I really thrived in memorization stuff, so I did well in math and all that stuff, but it's like, I hate reading, but it's like, you know, it's a skill, the skill for me, reading is just brutal, but I mean, I do it for work, but I just recently started reading the Bible in the morning. It's the first, like, I just finished reading a study on Isaiah. It's the first book I've ever read in my life at 45 years old. And like, it's just frustrating, like how, like when you're gonna get out of the system and you look at it, it's like, it's just garbage. It's like, we're teaching, like, you know, and like some of the stuff I listened to that said like it's kind of geared towards factory workers, right? Like when they devised this school system was devised to get you ready, ring the bell in the morning, go into work, ring the bell, have a lunch, and you know, like, and that's not the world we live in anymore, right? So I can't wait for this education systems to be abolished and actually nurture true kids, right? Like what they're meant to be, instead of trying to make them into this box. And what's your name, sorry? Stan made a comment about like this social construct stuff. It's like, you know, I'm 45. It took me like till I'm 30 something years old to kind of start figuring out what kind of person I am. And to put this social construct out there for like 12-year-olds and all this stuff, it's like, it's hard. Like at 30 years old, I struggled to define myself, and I already lived life, had kids, and you know, I just, there's too much pressure to figure out what you are so young in life in this world, and it's not necessary. The kids aren't enjoying their lives because they're worried about what gender they are or who, you know. It's sickening because we're just destroying our kids, right? There was one other point I was going to say, but being a dad. One of the best things, I kind of went through divorce. I did go through divorce a few years ago, and I listened to a lot of different things. And the one thing that really clicked on me was it was a motivational speaker clip that I listened to, and he shared that his son committed suicide, and in his suicide letter, his son said, I don't know how to do life because I don't think I could ever meet what you're doing, right? I could never be as good as you are. And it's like, man, if I would have told my son how many times we were so close to losing the vehicles and losing the house and losing all these things, it's the one thing as a father I think that you need to do really well with, especially with boys, is like show them your brokenness, show them how hard it is to be a man, show them that, hey, even though it is hard, you can still climb the ladder, you still be successful, right? I think that's one of the things that really have been great that's come out of this like movement of society. Is I think it's nice to see men be men. It's like, yeah, you know, I messed up, you know, whatever, but it's like, but that's the only way you can really grow, right? By accepting this broken, perfect person.
It's fantastic. So let's come on up to Eddie, and then we'll have time for one or two more. Then we'll wrap it up.
Thank you very much. And my kind of question and contribution maybe can be addressed by Greg. I can kind of identify and relate with your experience with depression and going on drugs, on medication or drugs, sorry. Personally, I went through the same. And I never knew what was called even depression until I walked into a doctor's office and he said, I think you're depressed. I said, well, what is that? I was put on a medication about maybe 5-6 years ago. And at that same moment, I was also deep into drinking because I was just by myself. I say this with kind of regret and also with strength that I learned out of this broken self to become a stronger man. I speak because my son is just sitting right here with me, and he saw the kind of struggles that I went through at home. And I also want to thank God for bringing me out of this, because it's not an easy journey for a man to climb out of this kind of challenge. But thank God, I've been sober for over 4 years. And I went through the medication, as you said. I was given all the medication, but I didn't even know, the psychiatrist didn't tell me, you cannot do this medication with drinking. And I went on drinking and also taking the medication. But it got to a point, for some reason, my dad saw me broken in my own house. And he couldn't imagine I could drink 750 mils of whiskey within a day or two, just by myself. And it also happened around the COVID time. So the lesson maybe I want to share with other men is, it is possible. Sometimes it gets to a point it becomes so suicidal, because maybe Steiner, is it Steiner? Will be able to help us with what exactly men go through in the struggle, with those social constructs, with the sense of failure, with that external forces, external factors, that sometimes when we get to see that we are not really getting to where we want to be, even though almost everything seems that you have all the tools, but yet we feel we have failed ourselves and the people around us. And that can be really depressive. I didn't know that I was even depressed, mind you. And so maybe I'm also going through a journey of trying to be strong for not myself, for my kids, and also to show them that you can come out of adversity and become better off than yourself or than what you used to be. So maybe Craig, you can share. I'm now using more, I've gone off from the medication for some years now, and I'm using more of exercising, more being more active, engaged in running and playing squash, and that's helping me a lot. But I don't know if that has helped you in that journey, as you can maybe share experience for others to also learn. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the neuroscientist here is definitely, he is the one to explain about the brain and that kind of stuff. Because for me, it's like I'm not a professional when it comes to that stuff, and I try and stay away from talking about medication and that kind of stuff. But one story that actually it talks to me about you and your son is that there's a story that I want to quickly share it. It's about there was an alcoholic father and he had two sons, and one of them actually ended up drinking just like him, and he asked him, why do you drink and why do you be like that? Because he's like, well, I watched my dad. His other son became a very successful man, never touched a drop of alcohol, and he became to be an amazing role model in this community. He said, how did you become that man? He said, because I watched my dad. So for me, I grew up, and I always said this, I was very careful how I worded this, but my dad almost showed me the man that I didn't want to be. And I still don't have a strong relationship with my father, and I think it's getting there. It's understanding that he was learning and growing up just as I was growing up, and he was growing up and trying to take on life. And for me, it's just like seeing that, I was just like, man, he was trying. And I have to give him more sympathy, and I have to see that. But like, I was also a young boy that wanted that guidance and needed that guidance. And I had to go through all my dark times and that kind of stuff. And I truly believe that God put me through a lot of my struggles and a lot of my dark times, and he pulled me through. So now I can help people and turn back around and help the ones that were struggling just like I was. So.
All right, that's awesome. One or two more. Just one more, I think, Mac. And then we can go back to Stephen, I think. And then maybe just one more. We haven't met yet. What's your name? Edward. Good name. All right, we got Eddie and Edward. All right.
I think I resonated a lot with both your stories. For when I was in high school, I was sort of that kid who was put off to the side to do the tests. Like, everyone would do it on paper, and I did the little special one on the computer. So I feel your son, and I feel you on how that feels. With less noise as well, I think that really has a lot of power. I had a giant friends group that I grew up with since I was yay tall through kindergarten up to high school. And I took a month at one point and separated myself from that noise. And I started to see how I would think about myself better. I started to get healthier. I drank less. I got away from drugs. And a lot of people look at getting less as a negative thing. You know, oh, why would you want to separate yourself from your friends that you grew up with? But, you know, you might not actually see the negative influence that they're having on you. And, you know, I'm not going to say a bad thing about those people. They just weren't my people. They're on a different path. I'm on a different path now. And that's just how it is. Also, my clicking moment. I actually know my exact clicking moment. And from that clicking moment, it wasn't always easy going. From the clicking moment, it was a hard road getting to where I am now, and I still have a ways to go. But that clicking moment was from someone very special in my life, and they said something to me. And I promise this came from the heart. It wasn't a nasty comment to me, but it was something to make me think, to dig deeper within my heart and really look down. And it was, have you really changed, or are you just bullshitting yourself? That was my wife. And that was my clicking moment. After that moment, I really started to look in at the mirror, not at, oh, well, my daddy did this, my mommy did this, my brother did that, my friends, you know, didn't treat me like a friend. It was looking at the mirror and starting to work on it from there. So, yeah, maybe try to find your clicking points. It can be pretty powerful.
If I could just say something to what you said. So I you know, growing up, I had a friend who, him and I were just not good. We were bad news together. We did a lot of shit that was really bad. And I remember a moment in my life. This is around this time where I met this girl who helped me to like figure out how to, you know, write and read and all this kind of stuff. And I said, you know what, man? Like, if we stay friends, both of us are gonna die. Like, we're going down this path. And so I decided that moment, that was my clicking moment earlier on in my life where I said, I need to just sever this relationship. This is very toxic. This is very bad for me. Unfortunately, my friend died from methamphetamine and all kinds of other shit, whatever. So, but I survived. And so I really sort of, you know, what you're saying in terms of separating yourself from those people, those friends, those influences, so important to give yourself that space to find yourself.
Right on. Okay, Stephen, and then Edward. Yeah.
Thanks, gentlemen, for coming out today. Greg, I believe Abe mentioned a Not Today charity. Is that an ongoing, is that something you're actively involved in? You got me thinking about when you spent some time going across through the schools. There's a desperate need for young men in the school system. They're just not getting, you know, what they need, and it sounds like you've got a real great opportunity. It sounds like you're connecting with people. Is that an ongoing effort? Is there a way we can support you in that? Just wanted to get a bit of better picture, sort of what your life looks like now that you've got, you know, the whole family and everything else. But
Yeah.
you know, what's going on?
Yeah,
you know, in the
so-
next 6 months, the next year for you in an active way.
Absolutely. You know, the Not Today is a charity that we started last summer, and it actually got created for a mental health golf tournament that I run in Strathmore. And, you know, we created the Not Today through a company in Ontario, and I partnered up with Not Today. We've since kind of looked at it as a whole as a company, and I realized that, you know, being across the country with Not Today and the efforts that I want to more focus on with being suicide prevention and stuff like that, I'm actually looking to get back into, I would love to create my own foundation and being able to actually give money directly to families that have been affected by grief and suicide. And stuff like that. So Not Today was a chance for me to start diving deeper. I partnered up with a guy that actually created the company. We're still going to work on events together, but I realized that I have a stronger passion and a need for, you know, kind of going more after suicide and stuff like that. So yeah, golf tournament is that happens in August 16th, and 100%. I feel like I'd love to get back into the schools and get back into churches, and I know there's a desperate need for young men. And I think I'm in a transition right now where I was saying earlier is that I've been a singer-songwriter most of my life, so everyone still asks me to do cover shows and sing and play music, and I'm like, I'm in a transition. I'm trying to get away from that. So I've got to cut the whole umbilical cord and be like, I'm not a cover singer anymore. I don't do those kind of shows. I'm kind of leading towards speaking and more original shows. So yeah, I'm just in a transition, and I take perfect guidance from Peter in the slowing down, where it's just like, you have these goals and you know that people need help and you're like, go, 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 like start going, like get up every day and like work on this. And I'm just like, I do need to let time really kind of nurture this and make sure I'm ready for when the opportunity comes, because I think my school opportunity, it came a little earlier than I would have liked, because I think I was preaching a message that I truly didn't believe yet. And I was telling these kids what to do, but I didn't believe it yet. And I was bullshitting myself. And I was standing up on stage and I was like, man, I say I've changed. I say I turned my life around, but I still haven't fully turned my life around. And then now that I'm at a different spot, I just feel like I'm in a much better space and a much better headspace to be able to really deliver this message properly. So I don't know what the next steps will be, but I'm excited to continue just to let my journey and my story develop.
Right on. Okay, one final comment from Mr. Edward. There he is.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. In listening to both presentations, one thing that I found, and I don't know, a comment and a question as well, that I'm able to link a few things. And when I was coming into this place, and this is my first time, I saw that stand that says, is it Hope Church? Yeah. So the question I have is for Greg. How much has spirituality actually helped your journey? It looks like it's not something we talk about much, but we talked about finding your inner strength. As Peter said, less is more, and getting to the place where you can find your space and things like that. But if you can find your purpose and have hope in life, I think that is where you can actually deal with any adversity. But if you are always doing it yourself, and we are actually not tapping into where real hope comes from, and that is where my question leads to. That Greg, Greg, you have struggled for many years, but finally, towards 2023, is where maybe everything came together. If that baptism had occurred, maybe when you started struggling, and really tap into that spirituality, do you think it would have made things much easier, faster, and get you to where you are now?
This is tricky. It's so tricky to answer stuff like that, because I know that everyone has a different religion and everyone doesn't. It's tough. I speak about my personal journey, and I never had anyone, and my story of how I found God was just, it was just feeling like I had a mentor of mine in Calgary actually, and he said to me, I was coming up on a year sober, and he said to me, he's like, did you ever figure out why you drank? And I said, I'm a small town boy. I grew up playing hockey all my life. Like, this is what we do. And he's like, there's a course called Freedom Session. And it's through Center Street Church. It's a 28-week program that I took. And on week 19, the door flew open. And he said to me, you should think about signing up for this course, because you have two options, Greg. Would you rather be Greg the alcoholic or Greg the son of a king? And I was like, oh, I like to be the son of a king. So I went to this freedom session, and on week 19, we were sitting there, and they asked us to define our heavenly Father and define our earthly Father. So I defined both, and I realized the paragraph was the same. I realized I was so disconnected from my Father because I never had the guidance. And I was so disconnected from him, and I realized that's what I looked at as God. I realized God can be whoever I want him to be, and God can be the guidance and the role model that I've been searching for my entire life. And then I got this song given to me by Ben Fuller called Proud, and it's about making your father proud, not the one that you call dad. And I was like, if I can just make him proud and not worry about making anyone else proud around me, man, that was an eye-opener for me. So that's kind of how I live my life going forward. It's like, I'm not trying to make my parents proud anymore. I'm not trying to make my friends proud. I'm just trying to make God proud. And if I know that today I was a good man, I was a better man than I was yesterday, that's a huge win for me. So that's my journey. And I wish I found him earlier, but I'm glad I found him on my own timing. And I'm glad I found him when I really needed it most.
Right on. Well, hey, give these guys a big hand if you could, everyone. Thank you. And have a seat, guys. We're going to wrap this up. We're going to wrap it up. Just one or two quick things to mention. Number one, thank you very much, gentlemen. That was great. I think you both spoke very important messages to every person in the room. So let's give them another big hand. Can we do that? It's so good. You know, they don't know this yet, but they don't really get well paid for this, you know. So, you know, we really appreciate it from the heart. We'll definitely send you something. But, you know, as you mentioned, Edward, there is a church here. So if you ever wanted to stop by Sundays at 10, we'd love to have you. But, you know, this event is really not sort of oriented that way. We just want to reach people. And, of course, you know, this is a community building, but I like how you handled that spirituality question, Greg, because people ask me that question all the time based on where I've been, where I am, and where I'm going. And I always just have to say, look, I'm going to tell you my story, and it doesn't have to be yours. But, you know, no matter what journey you're on, guys, if you're looking for a coach, there's a couple of coaches in the room, and I'm not one of them, so don't worry. Some of you know I do coaching, but I'm not looking for any more clients, that's for sure. But, you know, we've got Brad here. He's exceptional. We've got Mac, probably a couple of others. David, any others in the room, just lift your hand up. And, you know, we're happy to, yeah, Ken, that's right, absolutely. And the only reason I mention that is, you know, there's sometimes a need to go deeper. You know, that's one of my frustrations with these breakfasts. It's great, and I appreciate all of you so much, the speakers, the attendees, everybody. But, you know, the complex things that you're facing are probably not going to completely be sorted out in 90 minutes at a plastic table. Do you know what I'm saying, right? It's often that we need someone to talk to. And, you know, somebody who's got your back. And yeah, you might need an actual mental health professional. Who knows? But I don't think that everyone who thinks they need a mental health professional actually does. And I think that there's a lot of people who don't know that they need a mental health professional who probably do as well, right? But I think that sometimes the place to start is just with safety. And what any good neuroscientist will tell you, I don't have any more time for comments, but sorry, my friend, but you know, is that when you feel safe, everything can open up. Real quickly, John? Yeah. Right on. Check it out. Right on. Thanks, John. And so, you know, guys, you know, just find somebody, you know, because at the end of the day, whatever your challenge might be, you may not want to struggle alone. And maybe you just want to reach out to Peter and get beat up. Do you know what I mean, right? Go boxing, right? Yeah, you know, very therapeutic. Or you can go with John and pump some iron, right? However you like it, right? We got a dude for you to help you kind of figure it out. And I really mean that because it is different sort of, well, I was about to say different strokes for different folks, but that was the wrong segue. Okay, well, you know what I'm trying to say. You're all going to find a different path, and legitimately, we just don't want you to struggle alone. I mean, you can always reach out to me, too. A couple other things I'll just mention. We do have our next one coming up on May the 11th, and so, you know, a couple of months away. But if you can just park that in your calendar, and of course, you'll see on social media or Eventbrite just the way to register for that. And, you know, we are going to ask if you have a couple of minutes to stick around and just help us fold the tables up and put them away, put some chairs out. If you can't stay, that's okay too. And I wonder if we could get you all to come on up to the front and take a picture, just like this one here. Would that be all right? So maybe we can just, we'll just push this TV back, and then we'll just take a picture.